Last week, I started my first ambitious project in Jurassic World Evolution 3. I've always loved the Jurassic Park movie and loved the idea of going on a tour throughout the park. Just, except for the dinosaurs escaping part. However, I've been so excited for the prospect of the idea of a huge tour that takes you up close and personal with some of the largest, most cunning, and even some of the most beautiful predators of the past. Welcome one and all back to Jurassic Park Paradise. Let's get this started. So, in our last episode, we got started with three incredible species. The Tyrannosaurus, who have already started to have babies. Oh, they grow up so fast. The Velociraptors, who like to explore their habitat every which way. And finally, the Dilophosaurus. I love the pattern that we got for these guys too. It stands out super nice against this green foliage. We also made a bunch of custom assets that kind of got us to make this so quickly. Let's jump in game and check these out. Here are our little barriers. Really simple over here. I made these using all the modular pieces. Super awesome and super easy to be able to do this. These are non-grid straight W's. Yeah, I only take dubs on here. I do believe these are concrete though. I only used non-gridded pieces in here because that allowed me to get a few extra angles in here. It allowed me to have a little bit more manual control. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't show off all of the names on here, which is kind of strange, but they are made using concrete pieces. On top of here, so I can get a nice little planter bed, I just have a couple pieces of mulch. Very easy to put plants right on top of those. Love the curves of these kind of buttresses right over here. And finally, to wrap it all up, I have another kind of wall piece right down there. Essentially, kind of just come over here, line it up, and I'm quick and dirty again, but it kind of just plays it like that, follow the path of the tour, and boom, you have your little kind of border. Now that we have that shown off, let's get back to it. One of the ideas I wanted to implement in this section at the park were sections and ideas from real-life zoos. In my time, I've been to over 60 zoos in real life, so I wanted to bring some of my knowledge of the real life to the game itself. After all, I love to bring something to the game called implied realism. Even though it's not super realistic, I'm not really focusing on every dirt decal in the game, but I like to have some semblance of, hey, this could work in real life. For example, you might be seeing there's no fences as you make your way through this tour. Now, your gut instinct might tell you that you might get jumped, and frankly, some of these are more agile dinosaurs than you think. But in the middle of the tour and the dinosaurs, we have what's known as a dry moat. This is a deep concrete pit about 10 feet across and 20 feet down that prevents dinosaurs from being able to jump out, climb out, or even jump on your tour vehicle. Stuff like this pays off so much in the long run. However, it was a little tedious to do. As you've seen before and as you're seeing right now, I had to place down all of these by hand. It really was not fun. I had to keep myself sane doing it, but overall, it results in something that just looks so good once it's all complete and something I'm super proud of. So, let's get started with the new dinosaurs. I went ahead and partitioned out this entire tour route, with each habitat having somewhat of a unique shape and a size to it for a bunch of different sizes of dinosaurs. Let's get started in chronological order. Keep in mind though, I build sort of here and there, so you might see some slight spoilers in this section. Try not to hold it against me. Now, as you enter those iconic Jurassic Park gates, the first animals that you see are our Carnotaurus. One of the last proper dinosaurs to have lived during the Cretaceous period, the Carnotaurus was a beast. It was able to stand at 26 feet tall. Still though, how can you be scared of a beast that sits like this? Well, I'll tell you why. This South American dinosaur was a ferocious beast, and I could bog you down with the science of it all, but it's estimated that this creature could have reached speeds of up to 35 miles per hour. Now, if you hop on the highway, that's really no issue, but if you are stuck in the middle of the Cretaceous period, there's no highway, baby. It will find you. However, while it will find you, it necessarily won't be able to see you. You see, while modern-day birds, technically also dinosaurs, they use their eyesight to their advantage with organs and brains made specifically to make the most of that sense. However, Carnotaurus actually utilize another sense, their sense of smell. Skull analysis of this species has shown that their olfactory bulbs are much larger than their optic bulbs, meaning that their kind of body morphology allowed them to make more of their sense of smell than their actual sense of sight, which is kind of cool. So feel free to wear whatever you want on this tour, but leave behind the meat-scented perfume. Probably don't want to wear that here. Their habitat came out pretty nice, I would like to think. This game is perfect for making these unique little setups. Most of these habitats follow the same trend of what I like to do best. Foliage, rocks, terrain, then fixing it all up in the end with every piece that I just mentioned. Here, I'm using my foliage clusters to create a unique environment. A lot of the pieces in here fit that damp tropical mindset, so a lot of elephant grass, reeds, thyme bushes, they help to fill out this a lot. Beyond that, I also work in some of the new ferns. These are the tree ferns, so awesome. Some trees like palm trees, just to give it a little bit more height and a little bit more depth. I'm not just placing plants on the ground too, I place it all around the habitat, even against the concrete moat. This helps to give it a little bit more context in the habitat. After all, grass kind of spreads and grows, so it's no question that it'd end up in the cracks and crevices. Now, the terrain brushes in this game aren't necessarily my favorite. Now, I could talk about how awesome they are all I want, but people like to hear me bitch. Usually in Planet Zoo or the old JWE games, you could blend the terrain brushes together, and it would come out with a much more unique looking texture. However, it's either one or the other for these texture styles, so I'm not really able to Bob Ross it, but still mixing the shrub brush, the sand brush, and the rock brush gives a unique look to this habitat that shows off where animals are more likely to roam, and we can finally cap off this habitat with our first section of the tour done. As you cross by the Carnotaurus habitat, you can see the waterfall leads right into a river that flows under your Jeep door. This essentially flows to the next habitat over, where you'll be able to see a different lizard. No, I'm not kidding. Allosaurus actually means different lizard, even though, you know, it's more so technically a bird. Sure. Allosaurus is quite an impressive dinosaur, one of the most famous of all time, and even having quite an incredible range too. While most of their fossils come to us from North America, you'll also be able to find them in Portugal as well. That's where they were first discovered. Man, I miss Pangaea. Still though, our Allosaurus have quite a large habitat for quite a large animal too. Even though they were quite big, they were still considered to be a pack hunter, which means they would need a lot of space to fit all of them in here, and their habitat kind of wraps around the tour too. If you're kind of lucky, you might even be able to see a glimpse of them taking a drink of water before you even see the Carnos. However, their habitat opens up so much more as you get past these canyon walls, showcasing a huge plain with rolling hills right behind them. However, they're not necessarily allowed to go back there, and try not to get too sad, but that's what we call a depressed vertical fence barrier. This is another zoo and kind of park technique that makes its appearance here, and we'll keep it a little bit on the brighter side. This hides away a fence from the viewer, so that when you're looking from it, wherever you're standing or wherever your Jeep tour is, it looks like the habitat kind of has this infinity pool look, but realistically, it slopes down to a lower section that hides a tall, strong fence to keep our predators inside of their habitat. We have this all throughout the backside of this tour to ensure the safety of our guests all over the park. We can't afford another lawsuit. Continuing on the other side is a smaller habitat, but it's for a smaller animal, so that makes sense, right? Deinonychus is our next species in here, and look closer, they've improved quite a bit from the last game. However, Dr. Wu may have messed up in the lab just a bit. There's still one that looks a little off kilter. I think they added a little too much frog DNA in there. Still though, I love seeing this pack of animals explore their habitat. They're dromaeosaurs after all, related closely to the velociraptor, and like the rest, they also were pack hunters, so they would need a large congregation of species to keep them happy. This is another great habitat too. It leads directly into a waterfall that's kind of cascading down right onto them. Love this look, love this dynamic habitat kind of feeling where one leads into the other, and it just feels so awesome. I love watching these guys especially explore their environment. The next few habitats came together really easy too. I recently put out a video on how my skills from Planet Zoo have transferred over to this game. Highly suggest checking that out if you're finding you're struggling with building a little bit in this game. However, species like the Concavenator and the Eutyrannus are some of the coolest ones that we have in the game. Both show off some really unique traits found in paleontology. The Eutyrannus is one of the coolest examples of how we know that dinosaurs, even tyrannosaurs, had feathers. They had fossil imprints of feathers on them when they were first found, and since it was discovered, almost every single piece of paleo art for this species has had feathers on it to show them off. Even though Eutyrannus is more so associated with colder weather because of their feathers, I still wanted to include them in a tropical environment just because, you know, that's the John Hammond thing to do. Another species also has paleontological kind of implications behind it too. The Concavenator has such a unique shape to it. It has a hump right in the middle of it. Like, what? Scientists were able to tell that it had a hump because of the elongated vertebrae on some of the fossils that were found of these guys. These are some of my favorite dinosaurs, and I'm so happy they're in the game. I love when we're also able to find out what we know that dinosaurs looked like. Maybe not exactly, but when scientists, paleontologists, and everyone else is able to decipher these seemingly lifeless rocks, it's just so awesome. For example, Archaeopteryx is a great example of this. We know what this species looked like because of the classic, infamous, kind of like Archaeopteryx fossil. I have a cast of that sitting right above my desk right now. It's so cool. But not only that, but we also know that they had a black coloration, kind of like modern day crows and ravens. Even the species like Carnotaurus, even though I love the Zoo Tycoon interpretation of these guys, they actually had their colors preserved in their fossilization, leading to a black and gray coloration. And finally, one of my favorites, the Sinosauropteryx. We know that they had a orange-ish kind of coloration with a mask on their face, kind of like a modern-day raccoon. I have a model of these at home, actually. This was made by Lynn over at Monster Emporium on Instagram. Huge shout out to her because this is one of my favorite pieces. It freaks out everyone who walks in my house. But I just love that. The idea that these dinosaurs, even though they lived millions of years ago, we still have so much information and we're still learning stuff about them that helps us understand what they might have looked like, sounded like, even behaved like. And that's why I love Jurassic World Evolution 3 as well. They go above and beyond for their more kind of non-Jurassic Park dinosaurs. But still, I love seeing their interpretations of these animals in a realistic style, but still with that little bit of Jurassic Park flavor. It's pretty nice. Now, I've been talking about a lot more of the smaller dinosaurs in this tour, and some of my favorite smaller dinosaurs, and I really much prefer building for these guys. It's really so much more of a fun challenge, I would say, building in a more constrained environment. However, we needed to include the big boy in here. Towering over the entire tour, we have this looming cliff that gives way to one of the biggest carnivores we have in the game. Introducing Giganotosaurus. Now, while Tyrannosaurus might have been crowned the king of the northern hemisphere, the Giganotosaurus had dominion over the southern hemisphere, with fossils coming both out of Africa and South America. Here in Jurassic Park Paradise, they have a huge habitat that loops around the tour, and if you have some eagle eyes, you might even be able to spot these guys peeking out from almost every corner. This has been a huge motif that I wanted to have all throughout this tour. I didn't want to work out like specific sections just for specific dinosaurs. I wanted this area to flow, almost as if you're in a contained environment itself. And from the start of the tour, you're lucky if you could see the Carnotaurus and the Allosaurus in the same vista. Meanwhile, if you're lucky with the Tyrannosaurus, if you look over to your side, you might also be able to see the Velociraptors peering down at you from above. And finally, the Giganotosaurus. I wanted you to be able to see these guys from everywhere. As the most dangerous creature in this park, it looms even from above, as within each of these habitats around this corner here, for the Carnotaurus, for the Deinonychus, you're able to make out peeking out from over the top of the waterfall, through the bush, or just staring out at you. I love these small things so much. It helps to make this entire tour really come together, and with all of our animal habitats, we're just about done. Now, to wrap up the tour, I couldn't just settle with the basic tour entrance. I had to kind of step it up a notch. Now, typically, I really wasn't too excited about making my own kind of facility buildings in this game. It just seemed a little too daunting. I like a lot more of the environmental controls of this game, but I figured we have this big grand tour. We gotta have a big grand entrance, so I rework what was already in place here for the Jurassic tour. I take the Jurassic Park theme, I start to incorporate some of like those thatches, some of the concrete. I have these nice tall concrete pillars, just to give it a little bit more of a grandiose entrance, a little bit on the industrial side too, and still using the normal entrance as a base and still kind of adding a little bit extra pieces onto that. I would say it's a little more deserving of an entrance for what this tour has in store for you. Thank you all so much for stopping by. I did not expect to have this much fun covering Jurassic World Evolution 3, building in it, making this park even. But this creative element to me has always been such a welcome addition to the game, and I'm so glad it's here. There's so much more potential that this game has, and to think I've only touched upon the surface means there's so much more in this park for us to get to. Our next goal in this park especially will be to turn this little dinky little kayak station into an entire river cruise that covers the incredible selection of aquatic animals that we have in this game. For the time being, I hope you all enjoyed what we were able to do today, and if you consider following along with this with what we do next, feel free to consider subscribing, and if you can, hit the bell icon. I know it's cliche, but it helps you know whenever I do end up putting out a video for this, or even going live so you can join me as I build up this park and even name some dinosaurs in here. But on that note, thank you all so much. I really hope you enjoyed these final shots of this park and of this tour, and we'll see you all at the next time at Jurassic Park Paradise. Bye-bye now.